Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Now the question is,
Perfect.
Now the question is, how do you make that the screen that goes on the big screen over there? Maybe it's going to do it as soon as, say never.
Yeah.
Okay, so leave that running for a second. And now if we swap over to his membership forum, okay, if I stop this, if I hit pause, what do you have to do to make that go on there?
I have no idea.
I think I just did it.
No. We're seeing the desktop. Close. Still the desktop.
Okay, he's got it set to extend the display because he's doing a presentation. I wonder if we can do mirror. Okay. Keep settings. Close that. There's that. And then
Perfect.
we'll go back to his PowerPoint. We'll go into the slide mode.
Perfect.
I think that'll work.
Yes.
And then, you knew Alt Tab. If you hit the Alt tabs, you can cycle through, so you can get to Logbook of the World.
Okay.
Go back to his presentation.
Perfect. All right. Yes. Let him run.
Okay.
And then I'll just Alt Tab over to that and do my thing, and that's it.
Well, no, I don't want to leave it on the copyright screen for the whole presentation today. No. No. So you just have to go back to your first slide. You got it. Yeah, but I just put it down to the end of your presentation where that is. Okay.
Sit down.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the ARRL Forum. Welcome to Hamvention, and welcome to the Great Lakes Division Convention. This, as you know, this is the year for amateur radio's volunteers. We're all active as volunteers. We're club officers participating, yes, class instructors. We give examinations. And we all make sacrifices to do this, to be on the air, time away from our families and friends and other relationships, to be active as volunteers. And I want to thank you, each and every one, for doing that. Certainly, amateur radio is not a spectator sport. We're all participants in it, and it is a contact sport. In the Great Lakes Division, when we have our conventions, we are fortunate to give awards to various noteworthy amateurs who have been active in the hobby. Sometimes it's to radio clubs for their activities, and sometimes it's to clubs for their newsletters. But because of the activities we've had at Hamvention this year and everything is so busy, we've just slimmed it down to one particular award. And this is an award for the Young Radio Amateur of the Year for the Great Lakes Division. And I'm going to get about 3 sentences into this, and the person that wins it is going to be aware of it. But this person's been an active driving force in getting other youth licensed. She was licensed in 2019 at age 10, and within 3 months had progressed to extra class. She's been president of her school club for 4 years. During the pandemic, she learned CW from the Long Island CW Kids CW classes. She's now a youth director for their intermediate and advanced youth classes, volunteering a few hours a week since August of 21. She was a 2022 ARRL presenter at Hamvention, attended Youth on the Air camp at Voice of America Museum in June of 2022. She attended the Huntsville Hamfest in 2022 and was a Carol Perry Youth Forum presenter in February 23 at Hamvention. She will be the Carol Perry Youth Forum presenter at this year's Hamvention. She's an active member of LARA, a local club where she attends meetings, participates in fox hunts and field day operations. Being the president of her school club, KWPS, she teaches and encourages other students to earn their license and is directly responsible for 4 new youth licensees. She mentors students in school clubs and roundups and has led her school club to a high scores that over the 2019-22 school years. You can also find her active on 20 meters, adding to the Logbook and QSL card collections. She's looking forward to attending the YOTA camp in Ottawa Hills this summer and teaching a CW session to her fellow campers. She's also a 5-year member of the Young Amateur Communication Ham team, the yacht team, that meets weekly on the Echolink. She attends as many hamfests as she can, and she's trying to recruit other licensed youth to YOTA and yacht, where they will find other kids who can mentor them in many areas of amateur radio. So, I'd like to call up Kathleen Campbell, KE8LQR, and commend her for all of these efforts. Absolutely outstanding. I'm not going to force you to see anything, but We've got 4 presenters for our forum this afternoon. We're going to start out hearing from John Sager, WJ7S, who is our ARRL treasurer. And following John's presentation, we'll hear from Bob Nauman, W5OV, who's going to talk a little bit about LOTW and maybe a little effort on radio sport. Then we'll hear from the Chief Executive Officer, Dave Minster, NA2AA. And to wrap things up, we'll hear from our president, K5UR, Rick Roderick. So to start out with John, it's up to you, and just you can hand it off to the next speaker.
Thank you, Dale. It's a pleasure to be here. First thing I need to do is introduce myself. I'm John Sager. WJ7S. On the air, you'll hear me mostly on CW. I'm a CW fanatic. Ham radio is one of my passions, and the financial markets are another one of my passions. So I was able to combine the two of them together. I'm very pleased to be associated with the League and to support the mission of the League, which I'm very passionate about. So glad to be here. I know it's probably, you don't come to a Ham forum to hear about financial markets and investments, but so I'll try to make that part as brief as possible and give you a better idea of what we're trying to do, which I think is noteworthy, and the steps that the League has taken and the direction that the League has elected to go. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I am a chartered financial analyst. That CFA behind my name is very important to me. It's a credential in the investment world that's very highly valued, and I'll talk more about that as I make my remarks. And then the usual disclaimer here. The ARRL board, a couple of years ago, took an approach to investments that I think was the right approach. We had my predecessor, Dr. Rick Neiswander, did a wonderful job of managing the League's investments and left the League in exceptionally good shape. But the League saw past that and realized that they had outgrown the way that the investments were being managed in-house, and decided that there were benefits to be had by going a different direction. And they decided that the League would benefit from what we call outside investment management or third-party investment management. And by doing that, you remove a big risk, which is in the industry known as a single point of failure. You don't want to have something go wrong in one area that the whole organization has to answer for. And they were very wise in their approach to create an investment management committee that would oversee the outside investment manager. And what that does is that gives you experienced professionals. You can select the members of the committee, but it gives you experienced professionals at every level of the investment process. And I think that's very important given that the markets are volatile, and it really, the more you know, the better you do typically. And having the best information you can pays dividends, no pun intended, in the returns that you get from the investment portfolio. And the overall objective is to, of course, add value to the investment process. I keep hitting the wrong button. So the League went through an extensive review process and hired a firm by the name of Trust, which is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. They went through a very competitive process to win our business. They're an experienced firm with over $770 billion under management, and they specialize in nonprofit organizations like the ARRL. And they went into the undertaking knowing that they would be overseen by an investment management committee, and they were very comfortable with that. The league went through a process of selecting an investment management committee that really I call the dream team. It's a very good group of people who work very well with very extensive credentials and want to do the right thing. They're also very passionate about ham radio. Every one of us is an active ham. We have a member from our board, Fred Kemmerer, from the New England Division Director, Bill Marine, who is the Deputy or Vice Director of the Roanoke Division, myself. We have Kevin Grant, who's a very well-known money manager from the Boston area, W1 Old Man, Oscar Mike. We have Steve Fusi, KC1 OP, who is also located in the Boston area, and Mike Elliott, who's a treasurer of a very large multinational, I call it a defense contractor, KK1MM. And we have different terms for each member. And as you see, there are 3 CFAs on that list. We sometimes argue points, fine points, but that's what you want on a committee like this. Mike is an AIF, an accredited investment fiduciary, and also an accredited investment fiduciary advisor. And those are all very highly prized credentials in the investment world. But we all bring our own views and discuss things. And there's a lot to discuss in the financial markets today. You know, the banking crisis, for example. We spent a lot of time on the phone talking about that and what impact that might have on the league, and trying to avoid those kinds of issues. We talk about diversification at a very high level. And make sure that all of the moves that our outside investment manager is making are those moves that we want them to and that are authorized in our investment policy. We spent a great deal of time going through the league's investment policy to make sure that it suits what the league is trying to do. Cap Trust prepares a lot of data. And that's the value added. We pay them a fee to manage the investments. And the whole idea is that they look at these things, 24 hours a day, and look for the nuances in the market that will more than offset what we pay them in investment fees. And this is just one example of the kind of data that we receive from them quarterly. And of course, I can look at the accounts daily, and I do, and watch the moves that they're making to make sure that it's not something that the investment management committee needs to take a look at. So this is an example. This is a report as of last December, and you can see, the amount that's shown there. The league has a substantial amount of money. A lot of it is reserved for special things, that reserves that we're required to carry, donations that have strings attached to them, and things like that. And so, it's important to remember that, there are liquid parts of this, parts that have to be, used for operations, as well as parts for, long-term investment by the league. And so we watch that very closely, and you can see that, it's a fully diversified portfolio, and a lot of data is involved in this. But, I don't want to take any questions at this point. You can find me at the booth, or the league's booth. I don't want to cut into other people's time, but be happy to talk about this in detail if you would like to do that as we go through the Hamvention. And we're investing in the future of the ARRL and amateur radio. you know, a lot of you have heard that we're looking at, you know, the revenue of the league and the expenses of the league. And, you know, while we do have, you know, fairly deep pockets, if the operational scenario goes the wrong direction, you know, it impacts the league and the membership of the league. This is the members' money, and we're very careful, and we take it very seriously and have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the league is there and continues to operate in the future. So we're heavily invested in this process, and you're invested in seeing the long-term success of the league. And with that, I thank you for the time, and I'll turn it back to, I guess, to Bob Nauman, who will take the presentation from here. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bob Nauman, W5 Oscar Victor, and I'm Director of Operations at the ARRL, and part of my responsibility is Logbook of the World. In addition to that, I'm also responsible for our radio sport program that includes all awards, DXCC, worked all states, etc., as well as our contest adjudication activities. And today I'm going to give you a brief update, and I mean brief. I've only got about 95 slides or so. Actually, just one. This is it. This is a live view of what Logbook is processing at the moment. And this is a kind of simple visual of what's going on. The upper few rows are files that are currently being processed. I'm sure they're already done by now. This is unfortunately not a live updating screen. Maybe someday we can get that, because it'll be much more interesting to see things pop, 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 you know, gone, you know. Like I can demonstrate that right now. Boom. The processing queue is completely gone, and we have the currently incoming files down here. Oh, there we go. We got more. So it's growing constantly. This is something that a lot of people don't understand, is that the input of new QSO records to LOTW literally never stops. It's going on constantly around the clock from everywhere around the earth. And we have a tremendous amount of participants in Asia, in China specifically, and Indonesia, and they love FT8. And many people do. And in fact, I was just in the DX forum over in the big room number 1, and many of the DX expeditions are reporting that 50% of the QSOs they're making nowadays are FT8. So whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but a lot of people are enjoying it. Speaking of FT8 and the support of that mode, back around December 26th of 2022, one of our friends at Grid Tracker software released a new version of their software that included a feature where the user would download their entire history of QSOs that is in Logbook of the World. And that's a rather large task for someone who's been a ham for many years, and they have 100,000 QSOs in the Logbook system. And especially when you consider that they have tens of thousands of users around the world who all upgraded when new version came out. Everybody's excited, and they all started requesting their entire history of QSOs. And we had what is truthfully a distributed denial of service as a result. Part of the way that software worked was that if it didn't get a response to the request, it would wait. And then after an interval that we don't really understand what it was, but once that initial interval of waiting was up, it would begin to re-request that file download every half second. And it didn't stop. And so we had an attack that was really pretty awful. I was on vacation at the time down in Dallas, Texas, and I'm witnessing this over my phone. And panicking, I'm contacting our new director of IT, Steve Berry, and he was able to get one of our IT consulting staff to dig into this. We narrowed down what the packets were that were coming in and some characteristics they had, and we developed an application that began to examine the packets, and if it saw these telltale characteristics, that it would just pluck it out of the stream and ignore it. So that worked very effectively. And, you know, the ARRL has got a limited amount of security capability on our network, and for us to pull this off within a couple of days, I think was pretty remarkable, because there was no truly identifying characteristic of the packets that were coming in. So all we could tell is that what the call signs were of the people who were requesting the information, but we didn't have any idea what application it was from. But anyway, that got solved, and but as a result of all of that, we had a huge backlog of uploading that was still in the queue, and for weeks and weeks and weeks, the queue was still being built up, and then we had a couple of contests, et cetera, so the queue just kept getting huger and huger. We, for almost a year, have been working on upgrading the systems that this report shows, which is the input of new data to LOTW and the actual processing of that data to put the QSO information into the actual logbook database. What we were going to do is move this system that was on a very old platform onto a brand new system with solid state drives and a whole lot of RAM, and move it over there. But this is very critical. A few people who were over in that other forum I just left would have a conniption if Logbook were to go down for a couple of weeks. You know, this is their lifetime here. And so we were very cautious about it, did a few tests, and through some help that we got through some connections in the computing industry, Kristen, thank you, we got some advice from some hams who work in the computing industry, who advised us how to make some changes and be safe about it. So we moved this part of the process to this new platform that's brand new, under warranty, and fully supported by the manufacturer. And we now have a system that is just working perfectly. Basically, the way it works is, as you see, the bottom list there, those are the files that have come in since the top of the last minute as uploaded files from users. And if I can update this here, we'll see. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of those files are now processing, the upper list, I'm scrolling up to it now. There's quite a few there. There's probably 40 or 50 files that are being processed now. And down at the bottom, there are more coming in. As I said, they never stop. Depending on where we are in this processing, we're going to see a remarkable change in the way this looks. And, oh, look at that. All of that work is done. So now we're sitting, waiting for more files to come in, which will begin processing. Once the seconds gets up to 59, goes to 0, it says, okay, give me more work to do. So, contrary to the way it used to work, where we had more files we could handle all the time, we now have more time than we need all the time. So it's working incredibly better than it was. So it has given me a whole lot of reason to get more sleep at night. And not only that, the discussion of my participating here took place before we made this improvement. So I neglected to put together more of a vivid presentation than we had here today. But I just want to let everybody know that Logbook is working wonderfully right now, especially compared to the way it has been for the last 2 years, where we've made improvements, but that's all fixed, and so we're good to go. For the future, we are working on putting together a team to envision what we're going to do and what type of software will be used, and the database platforms and so forth. And that's all to come. And for now, this platform, the legacy system, is working well enough that we can basically just let it do its thing, and we really don't need to put any energy into keeping it going. I'm pretty confident that we're going to get there, and hopefully in the short term. And by that I mean in less than 5 years. We'll see what happens. But I would like to, in case anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them if I can. Yes, sir.
Two questions. One question and an important follow-up. A lot of times I will get a match, and I go back into my paper log where I record that, and the match has already been done. In other words, that looks like that person loaded a file again, and all they did was update the match logbook of the world, and I was curious why it does that.
Well, they may be changing some insignificant piece of data related to the QSO. Perhaps they didn't have the grid square in it or something to that effect.
And it's a perfect segue into the second question.
Yeah.
I had a 10-meter match in Nebraska years ago, and all of a sudden it disappeared. And when I called whoever answers the phone, they said that person reloaded the log and didn't include the stake, and so I lost Nebraska.
Yeah, unfortunately, that can happen. Many times, we have to reach out to the person who changed the file and say, hey, could you fix it, put Nebraska back in the QSO data and put it back? Because, a fine gentleman has lost a state that he had confirmed before. It happens on occasion, but pretty rare.
Should you do that through you, or should they do that directly to the other party?
I'd prefer directly, but because it's a personal thing, and say, hey, everybody's friendly. This isn't that competitive, and usually we find that people respond to, oh, sorry, made a mistake, and they fix it. So, I don't know. Any other questions or comments?
One thing I noticed online are other operators complaining about, like, renewing the certificate to Logbook of the World or installing it or something. Is there going to be any sort of GUI enhancements to help people
Well, it's remarkable, but there's a lot of people who don't find it difficult. Almost 200,000 of them. But there are some people who have some trouble with it, and we've been discussing some possibilities of moving all of that to a server-based application. But we have to keep in mind the security that's provided by the certificates and verifying who's uploading the QSO information. So there's a lot of work to making that happen, but it is something that is being discussed quite a bit within the LOTW operational team. One of the things that we spend the most amount of time doing customer support is exactly what you just described, in dealing with the certificates, TQSL operation. One of the things is that when you request a certificate from a specific computer, that information is encoded in the whole thing. So you can't just go to another computer and re-request that certificate again. It doesn't work that way. So people often have a hard drive failure. And they go down to Best Buy and they buy a new computer and they figure it's great. Oh, load up TQSL, doesn't work. And why doesn't it work? Well, because this is not the computer you requested your certificate on. So we're hoping that maybe we can remove that burden from the end user and perhaps no longer have to have TQSL installed remotely. And I think that would help that quite a bit. That's correct. It identifies you as the rightful owner to the data that you're uploading. Yeah. All right. Yes, sir. This is not the first time I've heard this sort of question this weekend. But yes, we've discussed that. The current iteration of Logbook is about 20 plus years old, and it doesn't have a whole lot of methods to tie in new stuff. So I would say that it's going to take till we do the next phase of Logbook, Project X, LOTW 2.0, whatever you want to call it. But we're hoping to add those types of capabilities to allow perhaps third parties to host the images, and have them, because some people still like to print out a card, or a fellow was describing to me yesterday, he doesn't look at the cards themselves, he takes a photo of it, and he does a slideshow on his computer and looks at them that way. But he still likes to see the QSL card. So we hope that the future will allow us to dovetail in, new features and capabilities like that that will enrich the experience.
You need to mention the nasty language of third party. EQSL already does that.
Okay.
When you get a confirmation, you get their QSL card and they get if you lock it up, upload it to them.
Sure. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you for paying attention, and I enjoyed speaking with you all. And I'm going to turn you over to someone who I've known for many years, David Dinster. He and I both grew up in northern New Jersey and have been acquainted for many, many years. And he is our new CEO. And David, you're on.
Almost 3 years, there's nothing new about me. I got the battle scars to prove it. Who here is a member? Anybody not a member? Awesome. I was going to shame you into coming to the booth. Any first-timers at Hamvention other than Kevin? Welcome. I've been doing this since my freshman year at Ohio State, little football school up the road in spring of 1980. People that go there and beat other teams don't use that word. We just say Ohio State, because that's what's number one, you know, when they put the rankings up on Saturday. Yeah, people from Arkansas know that too. Anyway, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. But they're trying. I just want to talk about a few things that I think you might find interesting, and we've had a lot of great conversations in the booth, and you know, please, after this, if you've got anything you want to come over and talk about. And I'm getting hoarse from all the talking, actually. I came in early this week. We had our strategy team spent half a day sort of putting together the structure of what we're going to present to the board in July. We've been meeting weekly for many months, going through what a 3 to 5 year strategic view of the future of ARRL looks like. And I will tell you, it's incredibly positive. And one of the keystones to it is our youth initiatives. And you saw from the award given earlier, there's a lot of hopeful young people that are coming into the hobby. And we have an obligation, you know, as Bob said, you know, we met, were you still a teenager? I think you were. Yeah. Bob was 19 years old at Heathkit, and I was a few years younger than him when we met. But, you know, we came into amateur radio through school. I remember going to my geometry teacher and asking for help learning logarithms because we hadn't covered them in school yet, but my amateur radio exam, I needed to know them, so I went after school for 3 days to learn logarithms. But anyway, the strategy is going to evolve through the balance of the year. It's something that we want to be able to hear from you guys on, and we'll look for opportunities to do that. One of the things, I don't know if you noticed or not, as a member, just a member for many, many years, I never read the front of QST. I was a guy that went right into the articles and looked at some of the flashy new gear and sort of moved on. I was just a everyday ham. I wasn't an ARRL insider or anything like that. But I try to use the Second Century column to inform you and to inspire you, and maybe even to inspire some thought. Sometimes I try to introduce some provocative ideas that I know I'm going to get tomatoes thrown at me, like my recent ideas in my Bouvet column. And I had written a column on transparency in social media for July that I was sure was either going to get me fired or murdered. So I've kicked that down the road, but it's coming to a QST near you in the future. But one of the things that I did put in to that column was to call for your help in terms of giving us your thoughts related to dues. And you know, this is an organization that's only taken 2 dues increases in 22 years. And it's something that we need to look at every time we do one of these dues increases. Everybody says we should be doing it more frequently, more regularly. We shouldn't surprise the members. And of course, we don't do that. So in any event, how many people do you think are going to log into ARRL.org and go through a dues survey? We didn't know. And what I will tell you is I'm very pleased to say that 11,000 or so of you have filled out the dues survey. Up until maybe 2 days ago, I've read every single one of them. I've read the comments. It has taken me many, many hours to read. And really great suggestions. A couple of the suggestions that we're looking at in terms of our recommendation to the board in July have come directly from you. So that collaboration is something that is important to me. I think it gives you a voice. It gives you the opportunity to sort of chime in on where you'd like to see ARRL be going. And in this particular topic, it's a decision that we need to make together. Just some booth information. If you haven't been by the booth yet, I would encourage you to go by and see Steve Goodgame in the youth area, education and learning. Steve was also appointed the IARU Region 2 Youth Coordinator. So he will also be giving the IARU support and guidance for youth programming everywhere from Greenland to the southern tip of Argentina. So there's a lot of work to do there. I'll tell you, when I hired him, I did not have any level of fluency in Spanish as a prerequisite, and it turns out he's got a basic knowledge of Spanish, which has been incredibly helpful. The development booth, we recently hired a new director of development. That's Kevin Beal. Kevin's terrific. He is one of the projects that we undertook that came from one of our directors, Director Norton. This was some time ago. Is a subject that's important to Director Norton, to me, and probably to many of you, as you've seen coming through your amateur career, has to do with estates. And it has to do with what happens when a radio amateur passes away. And if anybody's shack looks like my shack and looks like the storage room / junk room adjoining the table, it's a big effort. I was about to start dancing there. It's a big effort for a spouse or family, someone that you leave behind, to try to figure out what to do. And as we learned this week, actually, my wife and I have been looking at buying a station in Aruba a number of years ago from a gentleman, Carl Cook, AI6V. And while I was finishing purchase, had hired an attorney and everything, Carl passed away. And the gentleman that bought the station after Carl passed away, who was from Germany, DL6RAI, great guy, was on a tower there the other day, and the Caribbean environment is terrible for towers. And unfortunately, he found out. And a guy who's full of life and everything's going his way, the tower bent over, and now he's a silent key. Life happens. Sometimes it happens sooner than you want it to. It's very, very important that hams plan what to do with their stations, with their estates. And we went through a lot of content. This is something that we've published in QST magazine before. Dino Pappas wrote a great article on this, but we've taken all of this and we've curated it into a guide. And I actually wrote the majority of this with my 87-year-old father in mind and took him through this as we built this out. It's thorough, it's rigorous, it will help you help others. This is not for you. This is for your family. If you would like one, you can swing by the development booth and see Kevin. It's also downloadable from our website. You can print them out. There's pre-formatted forms that you can use to describe your station. We've even got a couple of companies that supported the printed version of the project that cater to ham estates. So I would encourage you to swing by the booth and take a look at that. This is called the ARRL Estate Planning Workbook. Let's see. And then the last booth that I'd like to bring to your attention is one of the things that we do in our lab booth every year is we test handy-talkies. And I think there's a certain intention when we first started this, but one of the things that's happened in the fullness of time is there's been a lot of HTs coming out of interesting places in the world. I saw one yesterday that Josh Nass, if you know Josh from Ham Radio Crash Course, he had an HT that was, I can't even describe how small it was. It's got APRS, GPS, it's got all this stuff in it. He fully expected to walk over and have the thing get killed in the HT test, and it passed with flying colors. But the other thing that we've got in the booth that's worthy of a few minutes of your time if you haven't seen it is, you know, as a community, we tend to be very, very focused on receiver performance, right? And rightly so. If you can't hear it, you can't work it. One of the things that sort of falls to the wayside is how clean are the signals that we actually transmit? And are we being good actors, good citizens on the air with our radios? So Director Ritz came forward with a motion to create the Clean Signal Initiative. It's a partnership with a number of organizations, including the manufacturers, to really hold hands together and work to create much cleaner signals so that we get better utilization of the spectrum that we have. And it's in its relative infancy. It takes a long time to get people to change thinking about how they manufacture transmitters and how we as operators choose to use transmitters. So it would be something that I would encourage you to walk over and have a talk with the lab guys about. So anyway, I'll let Rick wrap it up, and if there's any more Q&A, we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ARRL Forum. I want to start by asking a question. What have you done for amateur radio this past year? What have you done? Anything? As an individual? As a volunteer? Or you've done something good? You're one of 30,000 of us.
Not asking for anything on me, because I'm sure there's people that are more active than I am, but you got people out there that at least every month they're testing the radio.
That's right. There you go. Go ahead.
Classes, got 3 text licenses and 8 people ready to do.
Very good indeed. Well, yes, sir.
We actually had a person that came in as a novice, walked out as an extra.
Wow.
That was an awful thing.
That is very good.
Public information coordinator for the league, and I will put out this, that there's a lot of people in this room who are doing some really great things, but their story isn't being told in the media and in their community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one easy way to do it, and that is to get your local city government or county government to present a proclamation to your club, your region, to say, declaring it Amateur Radio Month in June, call attention to Field Day,
Hmm.
and invite them out to Field Day. Okay. Like I said, there's so much good going on with the people in this room, and we just heard a couple of them.
Right.
But tell the story. You know, get your PIOs and PICs working for you.
Good idea. Tell the story.
If I could add on to that a little bit, one of the things that I brought over from my military days, when you do this, you're probably on county or state or somebody's property. Follow up with a letter of appreciation or thank you. And that's better than word of mouth almost.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point. Yes, sir, in the back.
Hi there, myself
Very good indeed. Well, yes, sir.
Get involved with our local health department, doing drills, areas, and I think you can't help but mention how much Parks on the Air has increased on the air activity.
That's right. Sure has, Parks on the Air. Well, I wanted to ask that question because you remember last year I stood up here and I went through the organization, the ARRL's organization, the board level, and the field organization, you'll recall, and I challenged everybody to become a volunteer. You know, the section managers in our field organization have 21 different positions that they can appoint people to that want to volunteer. And I challenged all of you in here to come back in here and tell a success story, to come by the ARRL booth, come in here, share your stories with each other about what you've done, what will have been done by the time we get together this year. If you haven't gotten a success story, then, I just hit the button up here, sorry about that. Then maybe you'll come back next year and share one with everyone, and I'd challenge you to do so. You know, the matter of being a volunteer, not just with regard to ARRL positions, is also has to do with being active in your club, you know, like you were talking about back there in the back. Back when I was just coming through the ranks, just got my license in ham radio, and I lived in a small town, and our club only had like 15 members. And I remember riding my bicycle, and only about usually 6 or 7 came to a monthly club meeting. And I rode my bicycle down there, you know, every month and go to a club meeting, and there'd be 6 or 7 folks, and I was just a teenager, about 14 years old or so, I guess. And they were all older, you know. And if I missed a club meeting, my dad would be getting a phone call the next day. And they'd say, Ricky didn't make it to the club meeting last night. We want to make sure he comes to the next one. We will come pick him up. Now, in today's world, I'm not sure that would be as much as acceptable. But the point is those Elmers, that we recall back then, mentors today, they made an investment in me. They didn't give up on me. They put me under their wing, put me on their shoulders, and they made sure I didn't leave. You know, one of the statistics that Fred and some of his work has indicated in our surveys, like technicians, you know, 51% of the amateurs are technicians. They're not like me, an extra. They probably don't give a hoot about working DX and stuff like I do. But more than half of the hams are technicians, all right? Well, our studies have indicated about 4 out of 5 of those technicians that get a license, they're inactive after 1 year. Now, that's not good. So where are the clubs? Now, we know VEs, y'all do a great job. We got ARRL got 30,000 VEs out there. All you VEs, when you have those people pass those exams, you ought to make an investment in everyone that passes that exam before they walk out that door. Okay? You get their name, you get where their club is, and you get them, you make an investment in them. I dare you to do that. Okay? I was at Visalia a couple of weeks ago, really great event out there. And I was alarmed by something that happened because it was very telling to me. But you know, David and I are at the ARRL booth a lot, and we talk to a lot of people, and we hear stories about how, you know, Hamfests are dying and clubs are going down and this kind of thing, you know, and we've really been working hard on that, you know. We've got a new Emergency Communications and Field Services Committee, standing committee that we created a couple of years ago. In fact, Director Williams is in charge of that, you know, geared towards looking at clubs and our field organization and reemphasizing initiatives out in the field, you know, to try to bring back a higher level of commitment out there to the field organization, including Hamfest as well. But what was alarming to me is I had several people walk up to me, and we're talking about Hamfest and all that, and they're looking at me and they say, Rick, I'm tired. I'm tired. Now, these are people who've been a president of their club. How many times, y'all? Y'all know what I'm going to say, don't you? 4 or 5 times, because I bet some people like in here are just like the one that I just described. They're tired. Now, what alarmed me is I've heard that story before, but not to this degree. I heard it out in California, and not with the sincere concern that those people had, saying, I'm not going to do it anymore. Now, the problem is they don't have anybody to pass the baton to. I mean, they're looking around, and they don't have anybody to pass the baton to. Now, that's alarming. So, do you have somebody to pass the baton to? Or are you tired? I usually do an age countdown at Dayton like this every, and I'm not going to do it because I can already see who's in this crowd. It's always depressing to me that we don't have more young people. It's all a bunch of older people. And I'm like a broken record on this. As y'all know, the board hears me complain about this all the time. But, you know, I used to carry around when I was a director. Director Norris has seen it a gazillion times about the age demographics in amateur radio. You know, what's the average age of a ham? 60-something. The average age of a ham in Europe's 70. I've read that thing on WikiLinks or something. I don't know. That's just very alarming. Now, what I'm seeing every week, I know somebody's dying. Now, 5 years from now, some of us may not be here. So what's that envelope going to look like on the backside of that curve? Where's our next generation? Where's our next generation? Look around this room. What are you doing about it? Are you tired? Are you going to just, as Mr. said a lot of times, step one rung higher? Well, you know, in all seriousness, though, I do get it. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you need to pass the baton. And I think that's a challenge, but I would challenge you to find a way to build that next generation, get back into those clubs, get into a volunteer position. If you're not in one right now and you want one, see your section manager. And if that's not your gig, then go to a club and volunteer to do more in a club, okay? If you love ham radio or you wouldn't be here today, right? So dadgummit, get out there and do something about it. So I'm going to leave you with this question. If you died going out that door, when we're finishing now, if you dropped dead right there, what legacy did you leave behind for ham radio? What legacy did you leave behind for the greatest hobby in the world, the greatest avocation in the world, whichever way you want to describe it? What did you leave behind? You think about that. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank our presenters this afternoon. I'd like to thank you for being out here and listening to everything that we spewed forth. Congratulations to Katie and her family. Great job. Our time is up, so we're going to have to break, and hope to see everybody meeting this challenge that Rick presented for us. Thank you. 73.
see. No. Let me log in though.
Tony has it on flash drive, which might be easier.
Has what on a flash drive? Yeah, no, I want, you want me to log into Zoom on this too? Or you want to put the presentation on here?
We're going to put the presentation on the same machine that's doing Zoom,
Yeah.
so that everyone can follow.
Right.
But is there Wi-Fi for like?
This has Wi-Fi on it.
Right.
You could put the presentation on. Okay.
Actually,
What's that?
there's a Hamvention Wi-Fi username and password.
Is the person? Do you know the Wi-Fi for the room here? No. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh, he needs to get on the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, 'cause we run a Zoom call with the forum. I don't know if I'm allowed to give you the Wi-Fi, so maybe you have to check with someone else.
Okay.
This computer has, well, there is an Ethernet, but there's not. Okay, yeah. Do you have a switch? I can help you out, but Ethernet cable right there with this machine. Right. We can't use that. You have to switch. Is it possible that you can just download Zoom on this machine? Really? You can do whatever you want. Well, do whatever you want. You need to be reasonable. How about that? Okay, you guys were good then? You need more further.
Well, we would have liked to get on the internet in here. So if there's some.
I can ask the AU people if they can get that.
Yep.
I mean, Tony also brought in a flash drive.
Sure. Give me a flash drive for what? No, you can put the presentation in here, and then Zoom will stream it.
Right. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And I'll probably take the laptop down off that podium so I don't look like to stand up high.
Do you want me to start it? Just so something's going here.
Tony, I think, is on his phone as well.
Oh, okay, good. Did they get to you?
No answer yet.
Okay.
I don't think you have to download the file. And then the PowerPoint should be in that directory.
So we're gonna have, at the end, we're gonna have three drawings. One is for the bucket that you were already.
Have Tony name the sign that he put in the booth. Just sorry. That's the sorry we missed you.
The other half.
I love that.
Halfway, and then so for those two, everyone in the room is eligible. So we'll pass this around. You can write your name all on this, and then bring it up.
Yeah, we need an admin for that. That was gonna be my fear.
And put it on the table.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Okay. Yeah, just go past it on it. You wanna try hitting the launch button again?
share screen. Perfect. Oh, and I will give this.
I see Albert, you're online. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I'm not hearing you, Tony. I'm not hearing it. And this has sound. You didn't get the sound right, Bob? No. The sound person is coming back. Good, try now. That's your laptop. Yep.
No.
Testing. You're on mute, Tony. Take this off.
Yes, I just muted it.
Cool, I can turn off the audio. Yes, sir.
So we're wanting to do a Zoom call.
So we have Zoom call out. That's actually the hand call. Yeah, so I think we're on the Wi-Fi part.
There we go. Now you should be good. Like I turned off the audio here. It's muted and the audio's off. Yeah, because it doesn't have audio connected. Yes. Yeah. Monitor the chat. We tried doing it that way.
I was gonna say, if you need to, we can patch you in so that you can basically Zoom call and whatever's in the system.
We've done this at a couple of them. Usually we just do it for my laptop and his iPad, but every other way I just get it set up on this one. Usually my laptop.
So do you need any other connections or are you okay?
No, we're good. Okay. We're not going to use the speakers in here. We're going to, this is an actual forum, not. They're talking. The audience is talking. That is not mentioned. You're going to have problems with your live stream. This one's not a presentation. It is a group discussion. Okay. So, unless you have microphones for the audience, you're not going to hear 95% of what's going to be talked about. Okay. Sounds good.
Yep, so for anyone online, so you know, we'll have audio patched in, but you're not patched back into the room, so if you have any comments or questions, post them in the chat, and I'll
Cool. Welcome everyone to the 2013 Dayton Hamvention ARRL Collegiate Amateur Radio Forum. I will figure out where the space bar is. There we go. My name is Andy, KK4LWR. I'm joined by my brother Tony, KD8RTT. Actually, I forgot to update this slide. In addition to being an alumnus, I'm also a faculty at Valencia College. Anyway, this started back in 2017 with the W1YSM, Schneider Family Collegiate and ARRL affiliated National League. And it's basically established support for doing these forums, for having the booth, for doing the pizza dinner, all that sort of stuff, as well as all the giveaways and stuff like that for college students and soon-to-be college students. It started really as a grassroots movement. It started on a Facebook group that somehow exploded almost overnight. And
we have it up there. You can scan the QR code. There are so many people in this program that we have literally spent years talking to each other. Sometimes never see each other. So Dayton and Kane are great. We can get around and actually see everyone, meet people face to face. Like that was literally today. Was the number of people. Oh, I haven't actually ever met you in person. But so much of the discussion though happens well outside of this. So please feel free to join. Facebook really has a great history of everything to date. It's searchable in that Facebook group. So if you're like, man, I need a sample constitution, or oh man, my tower's coming down at my club, and I need to figure out how to make an argument administration to get it back up. Like those discussions have happened. You can search back in there and use some of those as you petition for your club. And yeah, just for a lot more real-time tactical discussion going forward, that's popular. Also, the link at the bottom for the ARRL.org news site has some links to some other resources that Zoom will talk about in a second. But then also help build sample club constitutions and some background that for up there. So as we hinted at, call. So every month we have a Zoom call, second Tuesday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern. And this came out of kind of the community wanting something that was regular for college students to meet up. So we can talk about all sorts of things at this call. There's a list of some ideas. There's some things we talked about in the past. Everything from this activity went really well to having Motorola Solutions come and say, we're looking for engineers and handwriting background to hire. They came and talked about what they did and we're looking for a team. So this call is meant to be what we wanted for the community. So if you have ideas, things you want to discuss, things you want to present to other college radio clubs, you're welcome. Just let us know. And the agenda is a really informal setup. Typically, around the room, if you want to discuss things, we'll go to some main programs. Open it up there. So just to give you an example, we had last month Coda come and talk, which was a fantastic presentation by Coda, just to the collegiate community, not the big Coda forum that you guys probably saw with active people, just to the collegiate community. Really cool. We got to ask a lot of personal questions and discuss stuff there. And then we had ICON likewise do it with 9 to 5. We were talking about as a collegiate community, beacons and SHF and that sort of thing. Case was presenting on Big Gun, and some other schools were sharing where they've been going with that. And then we had ICON join us for that. So this is a much more intimate forum where you can ask those questions to get that in. Also for college clubs that need money, we had ARDC come on sometime last year. I don't remember what month it was. And they taught us all about submitting grants for ARDC to station back on the service clubs, do outreach, all that sort of stuff. So it is really what we want to make it. And Tony and I are happy to have other people present. And yeah, you register on ARRL.org/we-want-you. We also have back history about the call that were recorded there. I think we're a little out of date on uploading some of them, but they are recorded. I know that much, but I think someone needs to sit down and just spend like an afternoon and upload them all. The next thing I want to talk about, so the one sort of event besides these forums, that the Collegiate Radio program does is the Collegiate QSO Party. This event has been running now, 4 years? 4 or 5 years? And it is purely targeted at colleges and universities. This is a QSO party, so it's a bit of a contest, but it's supposed to be informal, get on the air and talk and promote amateur radio and support amateur radio at our college campuses. Last about, that was a comment last year, was we had school identifiers last year as a thing. And there was pushback. So one of the proposals from last year, in the soapbox, was why don't we just make it QTH, RST, and, call sign, and then when everyone registers for this ahead of time for the school, only the schools have to register ahead of time, we can then just upload that as an N1MM, file that everyone can pull down. Yeah, you can see your actual scores, it'll detect if there's. Yep. That sound good? name the person who wants to pick. What's Cincinnati? I don't know. Why don't you guys clearly handwriting is no longer taught in colleges. It's a lifelong issue. Cool. Well, congrats to our winners. We hope to see everyone at pizza. Tony and I are going to hightail it out of here right at 5 o'clock to go get those seats. So please sign up if you are intending on coming. And thanks for another great forum. And we'll see you all on the June carb ball. We'll see you there. Oh, and if you have photos or anything you want to share from this event, here's all of our contact info. Or if you just want to, email us in the morning, if our refrigerators are running. Let's get all the students up. I'll take a quick picture. Everyone is a student, so it doesn't look like, like the rest of Hamvention. Current students. Up around the band there. Take a picture.
I think so. That would be really fun. That would be awesome. It's seen better days. I can help if you like. So how do I know if I'm logged out of Zoom? I am logged out of Zoom. Good. Okay. Okay.
You're sitting logged into my Zoom from all those DARA calls. Oh no, I'm not Bob. We just had the police call on yesterday, so it's logged as Bob. That was very good. Good interaction,
Is this y'all's or is this his? Is it? Yeah, I'll steal that out of there. Oh, sorry. I couldn't resist. I got a double cheeseburger. Hold the lettuce. Don't be frontin', son. No seeds on the bun. The what? Oh, is this a... Speakers. Yeah, I'll take that too. I'm not standing up here though, so... Count on. I can talk really loud. I mean, I taught for 21 years. Trust me, my voice is... In fact, I'm not sure I'm going to use that at all. Oh. Did you ever know that you're my hero? He brought me coffee. That's right. Boom. Yeah, you can just step outside and get them. I might step outside to get them. What frequency is he getting them out?
4645. Yeah.
So when you're watching the Discord for when is he posting in the Discord when he's going to jump? Oh, we got time. Ask him to make another pass. I need it to happen in the middle of this. I mean, think about it. If the whole thing is dropping everything and doing what kids think is cool, that's pretty freaking cool.
Well, the thing is, because it's FM, it's not HF, so you get, like, selectivity.
146 what?
45. Right? Yep. 45. Yeah. Step outside. Yeah. Well, he's in a... It's a drop zone, so, like, they have select planes. It is, like, it would be like a
feeds perfectly well into what I'm preaching about. So yes, I'll be more than happy to use it. But it's not going to be in this little thing. I'm going to have to, Oh my gosh! Do I have more cable somewhere? I actually don't care if it. Just, I'm hoping there's more cable under here. Oh yeah, we're okay.
Well, there's 15 people watching you live.
Like right now, so I can sing to them. Who's to say what's impossible?
They can't visually see you, but they can see your slides and they can hear you.
Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Well, if you're listening, we're going to stop everything momentarily when KD9 OLN jumps from an airplane, and we're going to go out and try to work him simplex. If you're in the Dayton vicinity, it's going to be at 146,545.
No, 450.
Oop, 450. That too. That's. You said 4545.
I said 146. I said 4645.
46.
The top frequency.
4645.
I forgot you don't have your glasses on. I'm sorry. Forget you got old. No, I ran away.
Okay, that's where I just was. And you said no.
You said it
Then,
differently.
okay, then I didn't have my glasses on to read that part.
I heard radio, so you were on the right frequency to begin with.
146,450.
Anybody heard Carlo check?
See, that's how this works.
Oh, you have my phone. Okay. I'm going upstairs. This is when
I don't know. I just realized it's still up here. I'm so used to being uncaffeinated for 2 days.
Be aware, the frequency is also what they've been going on simplex periods, so the whole day, so just for what it's worth.
Carlos is coming down now.
So I have been instructed by the powers that be that I am forced to talk through the microphone. Because they're live streaming. Hello, live streaming people. But I'm not a microphone kind of guy. I taught school for 21 years, and so I like to wander. So now I'm not going to wander so far. My name's Steve Goodgame, K5H. Yeah, I'm probably blowing out the people on this live stream part, but that's okay. That's what you get for not being here. I am the Education and Learning Manager for ARRL, and I am also now the Region 2 IRU Youth Coordinator. And that is my contact information there for those of you in line. Well, you can see my slides. So I like to do a lot of things with quotes, so we're going to start with this. And this is actually a quote from singer Rich Mullins, who is no longer with us. But it says, I believe what I believe is what makes me what I am. Okay, so if you just think about that as we go through this, and this is kind of one of the driving forces behind why I do what I do. And then another little quote, because like I said, this is me. All organizations start with why, but only the great ones keep their why clear year after year. I'll be the first one to tell you that as an organization, the ARRL has not always been clear as to what our educational motivations are, but that is changing. So we're focusing significant time and significant energy into what we're about to talk about today. So first, and this young man is here, this other guy right here is my hero, because he brought me a cup of coffee this morning. But why connect to STEM? Years ago, radio was a part of many schools. If you think back, who in here is old enough that you remember that you actually had ham radio stuff in your school back then? Okay? Not so much anymore. Okay? We lost that connection as broad STEM curriculum started coming about. As time went on and technology started changing and schools started realizing, you know what, we need to get into this whole STEM thing, we stopped. We just kind of, as a community, as an organization, we stopped. We were like, we were complacent, we were comfortable, and we're like, we're just going to keep doing this because it worked, right? We had years and years and years of this working. I mean, we have electrical engineers that figure out how to go to space and all this cool stuff. Why do I need to keep advancing this stuff? Well, guess what happened? Technology kept moving, and we didn't have any way to reach out with them anymore. So in teaching, we use this thing called scaffolding. Okay, and what that is, put the pointer down, is education. We have to present something on a broad level, a base of a scaffold. You know what a scaffold is, right? When you build something and you kind of stack it on top of each other. But the key is the base of the scaffold has to be secure. It has to be strong. Okay? And then as you start building up into different areas, you just kind of build upon that scaffold. Now, the beautiful part about a scaffold is that when you decide, maybe you're exploring a little bit about digital data transfer or something using RF, and you're like, you know what, I really want to do something a little bit different. You drop down the scaffold, but you really never fall because you have that base layer that's holding you up. And you can transfer a lot of that knowledge you learned here and slide it over into a different part that's still related, still similar, still uses the same scaffold, base level, but you get to explore something different. And also, amateur radio ties to standards all over the place. Okay, there's a reason they call it STEM. What does STEM stand for? And some people like to put that A in the middle and say STEAM. Okay, whichever way floats your boat, I'm fine either way. Okay, but there's standards all over the place that match up to that. I'm going to go back there for a sec. Okay. For example, one of the things that we're doing at the League is we're developing lesson plans and curriculum to help tie into those subjects. The days of having a ham radio class are probably gone for the most part. Not many principals. I was fortunate. I had a guy that let me do it twice a day. Some of us still have those. But most of the time in school, you're going to have to tie into some standard that taught in a different class, physics, engineering, stuff like that, So what we're doing is we're tying a lot of the things that you do in amateur radio to those standards. There's power in partnerships. And you notice I've got, it's kind of bright in here, but the slide, you've got a bunch of gears, big gears and little gears and all turning. And the reason for that is because if one organization is trying to turn everything, it's a lot harder. But when you start looking around, we have scouts that are doing some outreach stuff with kids. They're trying to create, lessons and stuff for kids. We have, I don't even know how many space organizations that are trying to create lessons for kids. We're trying to create lessons for kids Everybody's doing something similar, but we're doing it separately. That's smart. Okay, so we're going to talk about some of those things. Partnerships for you. Now, one other thing about that last slide is I am one guy in about 160,000 member organization. I now have an employee that works with me. So we're two people in 160,000-ish member organization. I need you. Okay, so my first partner is y'all, because without the volunteers, ARRL obviously has a tough time doing things. Okay, so we can't do it alone. These are partnerships that I need you to form and help me with. Okay, schools. I can help you get into schools, but I can't go to every single school and talk to them. I need you for that. You know, go into a school, say, hey, I got this idea. This is a great thing. I've got materials I can send you. I can Zoom with them if they have questions. But I just can't be everywhere. I've tried and I got in trouble. Okay, Scouts and 4-H. That man right there can definitely help you getting engaged with your scout groups. 4-H is another organization that we're working to get into, and then there's some similar like that. And then if you are a part of a club, okay, you're going to find that I'm slowly over time going to reach out to your club and say, hey, teacher so-and-so came through Teachers Institute. They need help. Because about half the teachers that come to my Teachers Institute have never touched a radio before in their life. So they come to TI, we usually get them licensed in that week. They learn a bunch of stuff about how to do this stuff, then get back to the classroom, and they start to realize, I forgot some of that. What do I do with this? Well, guess what? I can't be there all the time either, which is why we need y'all in clubs. Okay? And then we have partnerships for us. These are some of the partnerships over the last year or so that we've been working towards either kind of repairing, I guess, for lack of a better word, for example, with Scouts. Okay, there was a long dry period there. I mean, the Scout manual that the ARRL has is still dated like 1975. Okay, to places like the ISS National Laboratory, Spectrum X, which is actually funded by the National Science Foundation. They're making classes also. Obviously, everybody knows ARRL. Limitless Space, if you've not heard of Limitless Space, these people are pretty cool. They figured out that we need warp drives. I'm serious. Their whole thing is if we want to explore anything, we have to go faster because you're not going to get anywhere cool otherwise. Okay, and then, you know, by Scouts, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, but I'm not sure about all the political, what's called what anymore. They're working on it. Okay, so one of my main things is to focus on the vision. See, if you were here last year, I talked about how to engage youth, and I did it backwards. I should have talked about why we need to engage youth, and then this year tell you how. But, you know, what happened was I was backwards. So, you know, when I got to the ARRL, I set goals immediately. I sat down with the CEO. Gosh, this cord is going to kill me. I said, thank you, live stream people. I got there. I set goals immediately. The CEO said, hey, this is some of the stuff we'd like to see. I said, this is some of the stuff I want to do. And he said, go forth, make new hams. And so we went forth and we started doing this. And I was setting goals, and I did have a vision. It's not that I didn't have one. It's just I was doing it kind of sort of in the wrong order. So the problem with the goal is the goal has a set ending point. It's finite. I have a point where I can look at it and I can say, that is the end. I can check it off. I can set it to the side and consider it done, and I don't ever have to look at it again. I've already been judged on that one. Psh, bada bing, bada boom, do the fandango, I'm gone. Okay? Vision's different. Vision is how we see the future. Vision is, as that same guy, Simon Sinek says, is part of the infinite game. Okay? You don't see the end of it. You don't see the horizon. You look past the horizon. You don't see the end at all. Instead, you see the way, because this is the way. Okay? And the key is focus on the vision and then let the goals feed into the vision. Don't make goals and try to force them into your vision. Okay? So I have a vision, and I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. So my vision is kind of sort of this. Radio and wireless technology are an integral part of STEM education. Sorry, I'm under-caffeinated. Okay? I think we know this. I think the problem is most other people don't know this yet. So what I see kids building kits and antennas in classrooms, not just once every year, but as a regular occurring thing. You know, you're teaching wavelength in physics or something like that. Build a resonant antenna. Test it, see how it works, get it on the air, and oh my gosh, they're going to remember talking to that guy in Germany on that physics lesson. I don't think you remember your physics lesson that way. I don't. Okay. I see youth on the air making contacts and learning about other cultures. Not just saying, you know, hey, 5973, have a great day. But, hey, you got a minute to talk, and you start talking. The kid drops into, you know, looks on QRZ, gets their call sign, starts exploring where they're from. Yes, sir. You're going to have to be a little bit louder than that. I'm an old man. It helps you out with geography, and I've got some slides about that because you're right. I see kids asking questions like, what if I tried this? All right, now who in here is a kid? Yeah. A lot of times you go to school and say, what if I tried this? And the teacher's afraid you're going to burn the building down. I was that kid. Okay? I'd rather say, what if I tried this? And it's like, well, let's find out. As long as you don't kill anybody, we're good. So we have fire extinguishers. I did have Jack Wyatt who burned his hand with a soldering iron that time. And his mom happened to be on the school board. But that's okay. I mean, they signed a waiver. And so they're not just allowed to try it, but they're encouraged to try it. That's how I see it. I see teachers and students engaging in amateur radio as they teach STEM. Okay? You can teach a lot of things using radio and not necessarily just teach radio. You can reinforce math with it. You can reinforce reading with it. You can reinforce social studies and geography with it. And then I see you, the ham community, spreading the word about what amateur radio is and what it can do for students, and this is where we miss the boat. Because we know most of these things, but we do a really bad job down there at the bottom with telling other people about what it can do for them. Now, some of us are really good about telling them what it did for us, but it's different. What it does for me and what it did for me growing up is not the same that it's going to do for this young lady right here, or this gentleman right here. In fact, I talked to this guy earlier. Yeah, he's famous. He's like, I want to be famous. Okay. And yeah, you didn't know I knew Big Time Rush, did you? Am I right, Big Time Rush? Okay. So what we like about radio is not necessarily what you like about radio. And if you're a youngster in here, my lovely bride has probably talked to you at some point about what you like about radio. And over the last year, we've talked to, well, now more than that, but the numbers in here reflect 105 kids at Hamfests that we've talked to. And so we've kind of come up with a few numbers. All right, so quick survey. Ooh, you like that little pew. Raise your hand if amateur radio had some kind of influence on your career. Now, obviously, kids, you're probably not there yet, but you might be. Who knows? Okay. Raise your hand if your job is actually directly related or connected to amateur radio. That means you get paid a check because you're doing something, you work for a radio manufacturer. What do you do? Okay. So obviously my job is directly connected to amateur radio, but not a whole lot of us have that privilege. And then raise your hand if you were introduced to amateur radio at school. Wah, wah. You're kind of hesitant. We're going to count. That counts. Homeschool teachers get to come to my TI. Homeschool counts as a school. It counts for school club roundup too, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Okay. So you'll see that, who am I? 2 people, I think it was, that were introduced at school? Okay, 3? Not many? That's sad. That makes me cry. Okay, so a couple little things. Why radio for STEM? And if you had a chance to get over to our booth little area yesterday, we still have them there today, but Morgan was at the collegiate booth. She's a pretty cool kid, actually. She just got like an internship to NASA at Goddard. And this is her launching a rocket, and she's using, obviously, amateur radio to track it. And she was the only ham on the field that day. Oh, the old guys were just rocket guys. I say just rocket guys like it's something minor, but, they're just rocket guys. But they didn't know ham radio. So she actually had the opportunity to demonstrate to other people what amateur radio can do for them. And then this right here is a really cool project. I told some of y'all about this today, and I probably should have just shut up because it kind of ruined my thing, but that's okay because it's kind of exciting. So who in here has heard about the EELS project that JPL is doing? So they're building this little robot dude, and it looks, well, they call it an eel, but I see a snake. And it's like, 15 feet long, and they're going to go drop it on planets, and they're going to explore these planets with it, and it actually articulates like a snake. So, the current issue of Mars rover, when it drives up and it's got a rise that's taller than like 1/4 of an inch, it has to find a way to go around it. But this is going to be able to actually like, whoosh, and, snake its way over it. It can swim. It can cross ice. It can like burrow its way through snow. It can go places that rovers can't go. That was poetic. You're welcome. Okay? But if you look closely, and I didn't expect the room to be quite this bright, but if you look closely, this dude right here has got something in his hand. What is that? Anyone? Anyone? It's a cable. It's hard to go far when you're stuck to a cable. I mean, it's the end of the world and we know it. That's all I got. Okay, so we can't drag a Cat 6 cable, or that's a lot bigger. If you look at it, it's about an inch thick. So, we can't do that. I was shocked when he said, you've got the wired mic. I said, but we're wireless people. So, but you can't go very far as long as you're attached to a cable. That's the little connection. Like I said, I'm sorry about the lighting, but it is what it is. But the thing is, every kid in elementary school dreams about doing something with space. Now, granted, they all think they're going to space. But at some point, they're going to realize, I'm probably not going to space. But I still want to do something cool with space. Okay? That little spot right there is where radio comes in. Because at some point, somebody has to know enough about radio to make that thing work. Who knows? Somebody Google, how far is Saturn from Earth? Anyone? It's got to go a ways. Okay? That's a long cable. And heaven forbid you get a nick in it, and then how much? 916 million miles. The funny thing about space is once you get out to a certain distance, we don't measure it in miles anymore. It takes so long, we just measure it in years at the speed of light kind of thing. So that's a long cable. So somebody's got to figure out how to make this dude work from 916 million miles away without cable. That's where radio comes into space. One of the places. I was went up to, in Connecticut, we have a science academy on top of a mountain. It's a great place. It's like a tower on top of a mountain with a Yagi. And they've got like this little ham radio club there. And I was up there talking, and this young lady is like, I saw the rocket launch, the SpaceX one that kind of went boom. And she was like, yeah, but they blew it up. I was like, well, why'd they blow it up? She goes, well, it was messing up. I said, well, how did they know? And she said, well, the computer told them. I said, well, how'd the computer know? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, how'd the computer know? She goes, well, the rocket told it. I said, great, how'd the rocket send it? The internet? And I said, how did it get from the rocket to the internet then? I don't know. They have no concept that radio plays a role in anything. They've all got a few of them in their pocket. I mean, how many radios are in your cell phone? Okay. Another one. This is the little blood glucose. Anybody have one of these? Not that I want to be too nosy or anything, but if you have one of these glucose monitors on your arm, they take for granted the fact that their phone buzzes when their sugar starts dropping or getting too high. How does it know? Radio. See, we're leaving all of this stuff out of all the STEM curriculums. People are doing all kinds of amazing stuff with coding and dragging and dropping blocks. Come on in, welcome home. You're welcome here. Or not. Okay. This last one, youth dream of being part of a team going to space, like I said. Yeah, well, guess how that bad boy phone's home? There's no Reese's Pieces involved, for those of you old enough to get it. Okay? But radio is everywhere. If we want to go anywhere cool, kids have to understand that radio is a part of it. And schools and STEM programs are completely and totally ignoring it. All right, so Teachers are Key. I mentioned that Teachers Institute, this last summer's Teachers Institute. Like I said, the days of anyone getting into a school to sit down and teach amateur radio are gone. If you don't believe me, look at the news. and see how many people are getting in trouble for doing stupid things. Okay, those days are gone. Instead, we have to focus on teachers. Teachers are the key to getting youth interested. Teachers are also the key to getting clubs involved, because you have to have a grown person at the school to work with the club. Yes, sir. Actually, we have numbers to show you exactly what at least the 105 kids we've talked to say to do, and we happen to have a few of them in here, so we can get some of their tidbits as well. So they're the key to it. We have Teachers Institute. We're doing 5 of them this year. Okay, and I have the capacity people-wise, but not money-wise yet. I'm working on that. To have more. I could probably have 20 of these in a year. I have enough teachers to do it. I just need more money. So if you have some, the guy right next door to my booth, the development guy, he's happy to help you out. But like I said, we're actively seeking funding to grow. Sorry, that threw me off a little bit. Amateur radio connects across the curriculum. It has the ability to make meaningful connections to abstract projects like that antenna thing I told you about with physics. I don't remember learning about wavelength in school. I mean, it's been a while. Sterling probably remembers because he's kind of nerdy like that. Okay, but I don't remember it. But I guarantee you, if I had talked to a guy in Germany, may the force be with you. Okay, if I had talked to a guy in Germany after learning that lesson, I probably would remember that. Building kits obviously works on electrical skills. Math is pretty much everywhere, which if you're not good at math, get better. And like the gentleman who just departed said, what about social studies and geography stuff? So this is the kind of thing that I would do in my class. We'd work a station, and then we'd look that guy up on QRZ. Then we'd say, hey, look, he lives in Romania. So we'd go to Google Earth, and we'd drop into Google Street View, and we'd kind of explore his hood. And kind of cyberstalk him a little bit. It's okay, it's all public, which, by the way, kids, if you get your license as a child, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using the school address as your FCC listed address. Because, or grandparents or something like that. So, you know, if mom and dad's like, no, some creepo's gonna find you. No, I'm gonna use a school address. There's like 40 something of them tied to my old school address. They're gonna hate the hate mail later, but that's okay. Okay, so you open Google Earth, you explore around there, and if you're really lucky, the guy will stick around on the radio while you do that, and you can have conversations about the bakery next door and ask if it's any good. Stuff like that. That's where kids start learning about social studies and interacting with people and learning about other cultures. And then even if the guy doesn't stick around, now I don't need any hate mail about this one, but they can use that opportunity to learn about it from Wiki. Are there any teachers in here? Okay, believe it or not, Wiki is okay. I know, well, see, I got a chuckle in the back because every now and then you get these people that are like, Wiki is evil, it's not vetted, it's not this. It's actually pretty well vetted. I posted changed a page, what was it, Pittsburgh Penguins or something? I don't remember. We were at a conference and some guy was showing us, and Wiki pages are graded for reliability and stuff like that if you go to the talk page. And so I actually changed one just to test it. I was 3 minutes it was changed back. I was like, oh. He was right, yeah. And they've got that grading system, and that's a whole nother sermon. But I'm happy to show you if you want. What's that? I only did it once. Okay, forgiveness. I'm just going to be honest, I've been on the forum part. It might be. Have you been on the forum part? There's some serious. Yeah, but haters going to hate. So we can find a different way to do that. There's some windows and gateways.
We have API on our site because we have to filter out the addresses. So it just tells you the city and state. So if we go on our site, type it in there, I can pull it from their database.
Hold on, because you know our live stream viewers, which I don't know how many, it might be 3 of them, I don't know. Okay, you're going to have to step up.
All right. So in scouting, we have a whole bunch of parental and privacy issues. So in our radioscouting.us site, top right corner is a search box. You put their call sign in there, hit submit. It'll give you a generality of their city and their state or the country, and also a distance from where they're at from you. So that way it filters down their location, but doesn't give you anything else from QRZ.
And what's that website?
radioscouting.us.
Radioscouting.us for the win. So that takes care of that. Oops, I bumped this at some point. So now they can find out where they are. Hopefully Wiki's not blocked. If so, you can go to the library and find the 35-year-old set of encyclopedias that's still on the shelf and learn something about most of the countries because, well, some of them are still there. Okay, so what do the kids say? Now, before that, I'm going to give this sermon because I vowed that I'm going to keep this picture in every presentation I do because it kind of serves as a friendly neighborhood reminder for me. Okay, so quick little story. This is the first bunch of kids that I got licensed in 2006. They're fourth graders. 3 of them got licensed. 1 of them didn't. He cried, but he still wanted to be in the picture, so I felt bad. I said, okay, buddy, you're in. Okay. I moved the next year. So I handed the club off to, now keep in mind, this little one right here started reading billboards. And we made the executive decision when she was reading billboards in downtown Dallas that this is a good time to go to the country. And so we moved to Mississippi, and I handed the club off to the secretary's husband, who was a ham, who assured me he would keep it going, and I felt good about it. I was like, thank you. Because, you know, I mean, I'd just gotten some grants. There's a nice little station there. I had some kids licensed. I had more studying. You know, it would have been a good thing. And then the radio equipment disappeared. And then 10 years later, every one of their licenses lapsed because no one was there to actually keep them engaged. Okay, so if you are approaching teachers or if you are a teacher and you're doing this, it is more than just getting them licensed. You have to give them something to engage with. Okay, so for those of you who saw a bunch of us run outside a little while ago trying to scream into handheld radios and I was the only one who didn't make the contact, okay, it's because some dude jumped out of an airplane and he was like calling CQ on the way down. Now you laugh, how much time do I have till the next one? Sterling? 10 or 20 minutes. We're going to go outside for a field trip. Okay? Because what happened was this. You know, this is Carlos. If you know, he's got a YouTube channel, Kilo Delta 9 Oscar Lima November, OLN. So, yeah, Life at Terminal Velocity. So, but he just does this. He goes up and he jumps out of airplanes and he uses the radio until he hits the ground, hopefully not too hard. Okay? And then he goes and he does it again. And again and again. And it's not, sometimes he's on, you know, HF, but today he's doing 2-meter stuff. So if you have something cool like that, you need to just stop what you're doing and go outside and play radio. Because kids like that stuff. But anyway, what happened was this. I went outside with some individuals in here. Okay. Caitlin contacted him pretty much right away. I heard Sterling get in there. Child unit got him. I didn't. I still didn't. And I kept calling and calling and calling until he said, last call. Even though I knew he'd already worked the last call, I'm still yelling into the radio, Q5 Alpha Tango Alpha, please. Because she's standing here staring at me like, I got you. Again. Okay. So do that cool stuff. Another thing to note. Okay. I was using a $650 radio. And they were using a $40-ish Baofeng. Okay. I only bring that up to say this. It doesn't cost a lot of money to do this stuff in school. Okay. When I did this in my school, I didn't have any money. I had YouTubers. Okay. I had my YouTube channel and I funded it through there. And then people like Sterling and all the other YouTube bunch guys that you see wander around with cameras and stuff like that, they would send me radios to give kids. Almost every single one of them was one of these. This little Baofeng, except for that Kenwood TH-74 that I gave Cody. That afterwards I was like, man, what was I thinking? But he's using it for APRS, so that's okay. All right, so what do the kids say? Who introduced them to radio? What do you think? What's the top one here? Parents, grandparents, any siblings? Okay. Parents and family, 68% of the kids were introduced to radio by somebody in the family. And I lumped them together because you're right. We had a few grandparents and some aunts, and then I had so many categories. If I separated them, I'm like negative ghostwriter. Schools and scouts were 24% of that. I'll be the first one to tell you scouts was probably 18% of the 24. Schools are not doing it, or let me say it this way, we're not doing it right with schools. And then everything else, every other answer that y'all gave, kids, was only 8%. And that was stuff like, what were some of those answers, honey? They were everything from I just got curious, or I watched it on YouTube, or I don't know how I fell down the rabbit hole on YouTube. I was watching Minecraft videos. Next thing you know, I'm watching ham radio crash course. Stranger Things, which, oh my goodness. I used that video in my classroom to show them what's wrong. But it works. I mean, kids are like, I want to sing to somebody across the country. All right. What do they enjoy in amateur radio? Now, we're going to only ask the old people, which, I'm one of. What do we think that kids are interested in amateur radio? And then we're going to ask the youths. So everybody over the age of about, how old are you, Sterling? Everybody over the age of 30 years old. Sterling doesn't get to answer this because Sterling talks to a lot of youths, so he knows the answers probably. Okay. What do you think? What's the number one thing kids enjoy doing in amateur radio? Learning about other countries. Talking friends. Anyone? Is that him? No. Oh, that's just some random other person. What was that again? Kit building. Anything else? I noticed nobody said CW. Okay. Oh, hang on. I forgot I was going to ask the kids first. Kids, what do y'all like? What, fox hunting? Okay. Nets? What else? You count. Balloons? Talking to guys jumping out of airplanes? I mean, that was pretty cool. I mean, I didn't get to do it, but everybody else did. Okay. By the way, as a teacher, you have to be okay with that. Let's just be real. She's always beating me in Parks on the Air. She's a female ute. In fact, that's what, when Carlos was on his way down, he goes, hang on, I heard a YL in there, maybe a ute, I don't know what it was. I mean, that's like, that voice just kind of like breaks through every pile up. So I'm blaming that on why I lose all the time. All right, believe it or not, the number one answer was working DX, talking to other countries. Kids still think that's pretty darn cool. Okay, a lot of people think, oh, they're interested in this and this and this. Kid, that's the number one answer out of 105 people. And it was, I don't forget the percentage, like 82% of the kids said, I like this. Technical connections, I put them in that way because like there are so many different things that they do. But those kit building kids like building stuff. They like breaking stuff too. But that's okay. Let them break it. Okay, I mean, I had the same FM receiver kits for years that if they didn't work, I kept them until the next year so the kids could break them apart and then try to put them back together. And when their solder finally looked like a Hershey's Kiss, then I leave them the real one. Okay, but so kids like building stuff. And then being social with other hams. Kids are social. I know this might shock you. Kids like to have a group that they belong to. They want to hang out with their friends. It's kind of hard to be the only ham in a school. People are like, why do you have that big antenna sticking out of your backpack? Okay? So get a couple friends. And if you are the only ham in your school, guess what? There are some online communities for you. There's this weird thing, it's called Discord. Okay, now be careful which one you go into. But I'm just saying, they're there. You can do things like the YachtNet. Utes, any of y'all check into the YachtNet? Anybody not know what the YachtNet is, kids? So it's the Young Amateur Communications Ham Team, if I'm remembering it correctly. Okay, and it's like a worldwide net where like you don't even have to have a radio. That thing that they like to be on so much, you can put Echo Link on it and you can check into the YachtNet, and then talk to who knows who. I mean, maybe you can sing a song to some guy across the country or something. But you're probably not going to talk to a guy jumping out of an airplane. 35% of the people we talk to have a ham teacher at school. That is not jiving with the number of people that got introduced to ham radio at school. So I think we have a problem here. If we already have 35% of the people that have ham teachers, why don't I have at least 35% of the people that were introduced to school? Because we haven't done a good job telling them what it can do for them. Okay? And that's the problem. That's 35% of the people that if we just reach them correctly, we have more utes. How am I doing on time? Make sure you keep me posted on the field trip. Sweet. You have it open. Okay. This is another one. It's amateur radio. So create a culture for youth on the air. Kids, anybody ever get on the repeater and somebody was talking about their ailments or something, or they fussed at you for something, and maybe heaven forbid you said 10-4 at the end of your transmission and you got chewed out for it? Okay? Create a culture for kids. It should be obvious. Pretty much, I say pretty much, 87.4% of hams, that's an arbitrarily created statistic, by the way, believe that we should have more youth outreach and get more kids engaged. Okay? So create that culture for them. Whatever mode, if they're in your club meeting, whatever mode they want to work, if they're at your field day, and even if you're busy at that station, the kid's like, wow, I want to try FT8. Get up. Okay, get up. Let the kids sit down. It's going to be okay, I promise. The radio's still going to be there when they get tired. Okay, get up. Let the kid get on the air. And if the kid does it for like 3 minutes, they go, this kind of sucks. They're going to say that. They're kids. Let them try the next one. If they want to come back later, don't be like, what do you mean? You said this sucks. That just means they know, well, maybe I'll try it again. Let them sit down again a second time. It's okay. Okay, but create that culture where they feel comfortable trying it and you let them try it. Teach them how to use the equipment that they can use for their license. So whatever equipment they have, every kid who in here is a kid and licensed. No, you're not a kid anymore. Okay? Yeah, well, I get told that all the time right before I get yelled at. Okay? Everybody in here who's a kid have a radio. Anybody who does not have a radio? Are you licensed? No? Are you studying? If you have are we doing testing tomorrow? We can figure something out. If you have a license tomorrow, I have a radio for you. Yeah, we have enough VEs sitting in this room that we could test you ready, set, yesterday. So, challenge accepted. How far along are you? So you're going to cram tonight, right? So I tell you what, I'll sweeten the pot. I'll sweeten the pot for you. I was going to give you the big and mighty Baofeng. It's an amazing piece of equipment. But I'm going to step it up a little bit. Since you're halfway, and I'm expecting you to pull something off. At my booth, I have a Yaesu FT70. Okay, it's a nice radio. Notice it's not here because I wasn't going to give it away because it cost me a little bit, but that's okay. If you come see me in my booth tomorrow with the CSCE or a virtual version of it, if you have to do this online, however we have to make it happen, it is yours. So, I think we close at what, 2 tomorrow? What time is this over? 1 o'clock tomorrow. Now you're going to need to connect with Caitlin here probably because I don't even know who's doing. Do you know VE testing here? We'll use Caitlin. So no, I'm going to connect you two at the end of this, and we're going to figure out so that we can make that happen. Okay? Because you need a radio. Every ham needs a radio. Okay? Give a taste of what's to come later. Let them get on HF a little bit. Let them play radio. Obviously, you have to be there with them for that, but that's okay. Okay? When you hear a kid on the air, please talk to them. Don't yell at them. Okay? True story. I did have a kid who got on the air. He got his license. He got his YouTuber-provided Baofeng. We programmed it. He went outside because, that's what we did. Everybody, their call sign hit. They got it. They programmed it. They went outside. They made their first contact. And some guy went and said, "You're not supposed to say 10-4," and completely chewed him out. So he went inside, he put the radio in his backpack, and he never brought it to school again. Good job. I won't say his name, Hilton. Okay? Whatever you do, like I said, don't lecture him, because you know what happens when you lecture him. Oh, hang on, this is kids talking. But we're going to skip that because I'm running out of time for the thing. That's what happens to that kid's enthusiasm as soon as you lecture him. Dead. I mean, it's been 3 years now. I promise you, he probably sold it on eBay for $8. Okay? Please don't. All right, so Elmering. Oh, by the way, you're in this slide twice. So this is my child unit being Elmered at probably 6 years old? About 6 years old. We just happened to be going to the park, and it just happened to be, I think this is actually Jamboree on the Air. So, you know, now I want to point out, 2006, it was Boy Scouts Jamboree on the Air. Not boy, but that's okay, because this guy was like, hey, you're a kid. Come sit down, get on the radio. She sat down, she got on the radio. She went home. I actually have another picture of her studying the ham radio license manual shortly after this. Anyway, long story short, this is her several years later Elmering or mentoring another kid on how to do Parks on the Air. That's the way it's supposed to work. You do Elmering right, the kid grows up to want to be an Elmer. She's a VE for ARRL now. When she interns with us, that's the first person they email. Jerica, you want to come do a test? That's the way it's supposed to go. So please make sure that Elmering experience is positive for them. They need to provide guidance in areas that the newcomer is interested in. If the newcomer asks, hey, can you teach me about FT8, and somewhere in the back of your head you hate FT8, please give it to somebody else. Say, you know, that's not really my area. Here, this person loves FT8. And give them to somebody who will. Trying to force newcomers to do things that they're not interested in will only distance them. If they keep coming to the meetings and you keep saying, you need to learn CW, or you need to do this, or you need to do that, at some point they're going to stop coming. So, and believe it or not all Elmering has to be in person. There are all kinds of online communities now. There's this weird thing you might not have heard of. It's called YouTube. Okay, there is a wealth of information on YouTube on how to do stuff. Now, obviously, it's better if we can get the kid engaged in person, because then they have friends right there. But don't be afraid to say, you know, that's interesting. I bet, you know, so-and-so has a video on that, and pulling it up and letting that person be the Elmer there. And then, obviously, having a good Elmering program leads to good club strength. And last but... Sorry, I heard a squelch break. I was like, Carlos! Okay. Don't discount what somebody can offer just because they're young. Okay, we're going to take a time out for a field trip. Can we hear it? Look at her. She's like ready to run. Oh, so we're still good. We got a minute. Yeah, but that's not as cool as falling. Okay. Obviously, like I said, mentoring some of them gives them reason to want to mentor other people. Okay, so how do we reach people? I have all of these things in my office. You want to talk to a principal? I will gladly send them to you free of charge. I mean, you can buy them in the store, but don't. If you email me, I'll just send them to you. So why buy them? I mean, I think they're actually free in the store, but you have to pay shipping or something. And I don't know how to charge you shipping, so I just don't. I just put it in an envelope, and then it hits my budget at some point. And then somebody says, why do you have so much in postage? And I'm like, well, you said reach more youth. Okay. Be ready and willing to discuss amateur radio with teachers, administrators. School board members are your best friend, regardless of what you see on the news. Because if you hook one school board member, you hook a whole district. You hook one principal, you hook a school. So get a school board member on. I mean, I still had the school board member on my site even after Jack White burned his finger. She thought it was really cool. She actually asked if it smelled like chicken. Okay. So school board members are your friends. Obviously, be ready to discuss what amateur radio offers and why it helps students. Now, I'm going to go ahead and somebody in here might throw something at me. It's okay. It's the end of the day. I'm going to shower shortly. I mean, it's only been a month. So please don't use MCOM as your outreach tool to schools. Okay? Not because of any personal belief on MCOM, but because you don't want a 12-year-old kid thinking he or she is going to save the world chasing a tornado down the street with their Baofeng. Let's just be reasonable for a minute. That is not that target audience. Okay? Teachers and principals need to hear about how it's going to tie into standards, what the kids are going to learn, how it's going to elevate their STEM program. Okay? That's what that's about. Tell them about the scholarships that the ARRL Foundation has. If you are an amateur radio operator and you are active, you are eligible for up to $25,000 per year scholarship to school. Cost of attendance at University of Mississippi, what, 23-ish per year? Oh, wow, that's a full ride. That's pretty good. Okay, so bring that up, because while principals can say no to a lot of things, they have a hard time saying no to free money for kids. Okay, and it doesn't take much. You have to be licensed, you have to be doing something with it. That's it. I mean, literally, the process is somebody from the foundation Zooms you and says, tell me what you like about amateur radio. And then your kid says, I like doing Parks on the Air because I get to beat my dad every single time we go. Or whatever it was that she said. And then they say, oh, that's great. So she had a scholarship for school, but it didn't cover her second major. Here, have $15,000 to cover the difference. That's how that worked out. That's pretty good, just for liking to go out and beat your dad in the park. That's the scholarship page. If you want it, I can send this to you. I went and I sorted them by dollar amount and highlight the dollar amounts, because if you actually get the opportunity to go in and talk to a principal or a teacher or a school board member, leave that with them on top. Because they're going to look at it and it's going to say, you know, wow, look at all these $25,000 scholarships. Look at all these $15,000. That's a lot of cash. And make sure you throw a little shade at them. Be like, I don't see anybody from the school on here. Or, you know, if you're really lucky, like Rhode Island, say, wow, nobody in the whole state? Really? Just saying. Okay, follow up and support. Once, you know, you actually start getting into schools, don't leave them stranded. Teachers are busy. Ask me how I know. Okay? So call them up every now and then. Say, hey, how's it going? Need any help with anything? Sometimes it might just be, yeah, can you come program this box about things because I kind of forgot. Okay. You know, do whatever it is they need to support them. Initial contact's not enough. I'm going to speed through this because I know Carlos is probably getting close to jumping. And, you know, offer to host kit bills for the teachers and students and the parents. Might mean you have to spend $1 or $2, but there are some really cheap kits out there. If it's a real sticking point, then maybe we can talk and figure something out. Okay, they don't have a bunch of cash available, so, you know, it's worthwhile if you're in a club to pass around the hat and say, if anybody's got any extra cash in your pocket, we want to have a kit build with the kids from, you know, so-and-so middle school. However many dollars end up in the box, buy something that they can all do. Yes, I do have a request for ideas for kits. And in fact, this young man right here, what was it you told me you like to do? He likes to do balloons, but he was interested in the kit building stuff. And kits are kind of cool. Now, you have a few options. Okay, if you're like even remotely computer, come on up here, bud. Come on, Eli, right? I have a personal bias against that name, but that's okay. I'm not going to hold it against you. Okay, so this is an Arduino kit. It's a super starter kit. It's like a microcontroller. It's the whole thing. I'm going to warn you, I might have dropped this at some point and broken the case, so don't let it fall over. Hang on, you're not done. Okay, and then this, see, every ham should understand electronics, right? And we're not going to tell anybody at the office I gave this away because this is supposed to be used for something else, but that's okay. Shh. Okay, so it's a basic electronics kit, and then and a whole book of, here, you do that part. Open the book. Let me see what's in the book. It's got lessons that teach kids everything from the very basics of it's breadboarding. It's got resistors. It's got all the basic stuff, and he can step all the way through. And by the end of the day, he actually understands electricity and electronics. It's amazing. It's $30. Okay? This is the kind of stuff, see, look at that. And a movie star. So So see, that's all it takes. He came up to me, he goes, yeah, this is what I'm interested in. I'm like, I got something for you. Come see me. See, I got something for you tomorrow too. Okay, so congratulations, sir. All right, so make sure. Okay, so how can you help? Kids, you don't have to listen to this part because you don't have money. Okay, obviously being an ARRL member, if you are, thank you. I really don't think it gets said often enough. So I'll say thank you. Thank you for being a member. If you have the ability to join Diamond Club and help, thank you again, because it's not cheap. It cost me about $35,000 for 1 week at Teachers Institute. Okay, and I don't even put, like, I have to go to teacher conferences now to try to show teachers it's available. We don't even want to talk about how much that stuff costs. Okay, so if you have means, I would love to have you in Diamond Club. That's where I pulled that money from. Okay, so I know. I know that you get a lot of mailings from ARRL saying, please send money. I get it. I get the same mailings. I work there and I still get the mailings. Okay? Just decide what it is you're passionate about. If you have the means, pick that one thing. I'm just asking you to pick mine. I'm just going to be blunt. Because the reality is, the future of amateur radio is not me. It is not anybody in this room that is over 30 years old. Okay, sorry, Sterling, you are in the past, buddy. Okay, the future of amateur radio is, it's education. We need to be more vigorous in STEM. Yes. So there are a couple different ways you can donate. And Kevin, I don't want to get into too much of the nitty gritty, but if you are able, I do encourage you, go see Kevin at the development booth next door to my booth. He knows all the rules. I know that, like, you can give to Diamond Club and that helps me. I don't know where my money comes from all the time. I just know that I kind of write an expense report and I put a budget number at the bottom, and sometimes Diane crosses it off and says you chose the wrong one and puts it somewhere else. But she hasn't told me I'm out of money yet, because I'm just telling you, for those of you who have been a part of the ARRL for a while, you're going to see a concerted effort, something you haven't seen probably forever from us, to get into high schools and get into schools to focus on kids in STEM, because that's where the future is. So if you're able to, please, I will happily show you how to do that, or Kevin will. I'll just point to Kevin and say, ha! So, any questions, any answers, any theories about life, liberty? I do want ideas. Oh, what do you have? Hold up. You're not allowed to walk in with stuff. You won the raffle, which looks like, holy cow, this looks familiar. Well, we're going to look at this first, because I already know what you have. I don't have my glasses on. What is this?
An M-bot.
It's an M-bot. See, she won a raffle. See, that looks like a kit. You have to build it, I guess? Well, there's one. I wonder how much that cost. Okay, and then she's got the same super starter kit. Look at that, but hers doesn't have a whole side because she didn't drop it like I did. Okay, and it looks like it has a version of electronic stuff that is going to be kind of sort of similar to what you have. See? Oh, look at that. Great minds think alike. Congratulations, girls. Okay, so, and then most of all, this is the year of the volunteers. You know, I get that not everybody has the financial means to support everything that I'm begging you for, but everybody has time. Even if the support you can do is, you know, helping that teacher program that Baofeng, or going and talking to a teacher or a principal. Okay, we can't get. Is that him? It's in the middle of my like momentous moment. No, just kidding. Okay. Yeah, but you know, it's kind of antsy. All the kids are waiting. It's like, when's the field trip start? Okay. Questions. Look like you're like either going to throw something at me or have a question. Anybody have a question? Any ideas about, oh, what you got?
My biggest thing is back on Elmer. I can have 600 kids licensed in 1 month. My trouble, if I send that home, who's at Elmer then? That's why we don't do that many.
Like I said, we have to get them engaged. And that's where y'all can come in. I mean, he sends 600 kids home. They need to have a club that they're actually welcome in so that they can be Elmer. Anything else? Then I thank you for your time. Thank being in Hamvention. I apologize for the 4 o'clock time slot. It is the worst time slot of the day.
How much time do you think before he jumps? Like anywhere between now and 3 minutes?
So if you have a handheld radio, or even if you don't, have you ever talked on a radio yet? So you can I use you? See, in amateur radio, we have this thing called control operator, right? I can give her my radio, and I can supervise her using my call sign, and I can get the